back. So, in this little episode, we could call maybe this one episode 1 because the first one was just the introduction. But so this is basically our first episode, we'll say. And it's been a hot topic with the new Corvette ZR1 and then the ZR1X that came out. So we're just going to kind of give our thoughts on it. I'll kind of let Tyson give his thoughts first on this because I want to hear him. We haven't talked about it, so I want to hear what his thoughts are first. So, what do you think?
Yeah, so I guess full transparency, I'm not as up to date on the news. I had to Google this yesterday, so I did a little bit of Googling just to see what the hell was going on. Saw the announcement. I saw the official Chevrolet page where they were showing it, as well as kind of what the specs were, and then I saw the price range. And that price range, let's talk about just the ZR1. That price range, $175,000.
Yep.
Right there, that's where I paused. And I'll talk about the car here in a moment.
Yeah.
More,
but the price is
but
important.
that price, so
because you'll never be able to afford it.
Right, but okay, Corvette has made their whole livelihood in a way of being like the everyday guy's sports car.
That's
right?
Exactly
They've
right.
always been hey, we can kind of keep up with the Ferraris, the Porsches, etc., but on a more of a middle income type wage, right?
Right. So do you know what the base, like the very bottom base vet price is?
Right. I want to say it's 70, isn't it?
Actually, 56,000.
Okay, 56. So I'm 10 off.
But that's no
15
options,
off.
No
right.
nothing.
Right.
So that's still very, very
right.
competitive.
That's competitive
you
to.
still get a whole lot of a car for that.
Well, I mean, you're buying sedans now for 40s, right?
Yes,
like decent
exactly.
40s. So it's not much more. So exactly, it's still there.
Yeah, they are doing it for the market for people that can't afford that range, but still, on finances, I think I do okay, but I can't justify spending, say, $60,000 on a new car. It's
right.
That's what's hard for me. And so then, like what you're saying is, once it gets up to, like, what would you say, 170,000 or whatever?
175 is it's a
right.
174,999 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's 175.
And the Z06s, I think it's around 100 to 120.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we're getting in the six figures, and yes, the economy is different. We're not going to dismiss that things now. Just everything costs more, etc.
Right.
Now, including cars.
And
I'm sure if we converted these numbers into like 1990 numbers, which we're familiar with, this car is still unattainable. Right.
Oh yeah, by far.
So I think that's the problem. So they're, in a way, as I put more thought into it, like that, I got that sticker shock off of this car, and yeah, I'm never gonna own it. And if I wanted to go buy, I can't buy a Z06 either, but if I wanted to buy a base C7 Corvette, I could take a 30-year mortgage and buy, the base C7. That, is it make sense for me? No. Am I going to do it? No. Dropping $60K on a car
it's
is,
tough.
right, once
That's
again,
tough.
Mathematically, I could make it work. Reasonably, no, I can't. Let's be honest.
Well, you got to be able to live.
Exactly. So
I mean, because you'd have no vacation time.
So even then, the Corvette has become a little bit less obtainable. Now, I know it's not always been obtainable, but I remember like the C4s went for $30,000 back in the day. And yes, we still got inflation, and I don't know the numbers, to be honest, like what $30,000 is today.
We're just talking,
but that felt more obtainable than, $110 for a Z06.
Right, even the C5 and C6s were very okay.
I want to say they're like 49 starting or 50. Yeah.
Go ahead. What?
I want to say the C5s were 49 starting out, 49,000.
Right.
Or 45.
Right. Pretty close. I mean, we don't really know. We're just, like I said, we're just talking.
Right.
So, but I even feel like the C6s. I think that was kind of the early C6s, because then once they got to the Grand Sports and stuff like that, then they're holding their value really well, even to this day. So
they're nice cars. I won't doubt it.
No, we love these cars. These are awesome. But for the average Joe, you,
yeah, yep.
We can't. We just can't justify
right
paying that much. I mean,
so yeah.
So, but on the flip side, so that's a very good point. On the flip side, though, this is what I think, though. The ZR1, especially the ZR1X, it's a hell of a lot of car for compare. It's in the hypercar.
Yeah, I was about to say they're entering the hypercar space. They're now competing with the Koenigsegg's, the Veyrons. Exactly, they're entering, Zonda territory or
Exactly.
Kugani, I guess technically. So they're hypercar or hypercar.
It's basically became a hypercar. It's blowing them out of the water. Cause
right.
If I was a billionaire, and if I was just into straight performance, I would definitely go buy that ZRX one. Definitely. And it's, the maintenance is going to be cheaper, because like these, like McLaren and Lamborghini, it's like a $10,000 oil change,
right.
On some of them.
So let's get into, based on that, because I don't mind them entering the hypercar. Like, everybody loves a good hypercar. Sorry.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say that word. They're freaking crazy here. But, here's the thing. And kind of maybe a theoretical or hypothetical question for you, Nick. When you think of hypercars, you think of Pagani, you think of Koenigsegg, you think of, the Veyrons, whatever, stuff like that, right? Yep. Now, what are the one thing that all these hypercars have that Corvette isn't doing? They don't have a lower model. If you see, a Zonda on the road, why can't I think of the?
Well, what about Porsche? Porsche has the GT R3 or whatever it is, and that's up there.
It's different. You look at it though, and you recognize that's a different car, not just because of some scoops or something like that. It doesn't look like a 911. It doesn't look like a Carrera. It looks like a hypercar. So yeah, Porsche, and maybe they're a little bit of an exception, but you recognize it immediately. Like if you're buying a hypercar, nobody's buying a hypercar to drive 200 miles an hour, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's buying a hypercar to actually accelerate 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds. They're buying it to say they can, to show that, and they're buying it so people, when you drive that out, when you take it to a car show, whatever you're doing, because you got this kind of money, it's the prestige of being in that hypercar and what the hypercar can do. And the Z06, or not the Z06, the ZR1 and the ZR1X, looking at these pictures, there is some difference. But to a layman out there, or a person that just kind of sees sports cars, it looks like a Corvette. It's an incognito hypercar. And I think that defeats the purpose of what a hypercar is.
But on the flip side of that, the real people that are actually racing, they're going to gobble it up.
The real people that are racing aren't dropping 100 and the real people that are racing aren't dropping 200K on a freaking street car though.
No, it's not a street car. This is not a street car.
Well, exactly, but that's like if you want an incognito car, like the whole point of incognito car, right? A car basically that
Back
can
in the day,
show up
we called them sleepers.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
But the whole point of a sleeper car is to show up at a light or at a drag strip with somebody, and oh yeah, you're gonna get dusted, and then blow them off the line, right?
Well, but the problem is though, street racing. These cars are just so ridiculously fast. It's not made for the street. I mean, you can drive it on the street, but to really put it to its full potential, you're just putting everybody's lives at risk if you.
Oh yeah, 100%. What I'm getting at is it's not that, and that's the whole point of hypercars. Nobody's racing hypercars, flat out. You see it on shows. Like if you watch Top Gear, you'll see it. But from what I can see, you're not and nobody's buying these hypercars and entering them into these Grand Tour races or anything. They're actually using race modified stuff. They're literally to say you can. We're not playing Gran Turismo out in the world. Us everyday Joes are, but these rich people aren't playing Gran Turismo with their real money. They're buying the car for prestige, and they want it to be recognized. Look what I own. Look what I just arrived in. Right. So very few of these will actually, they'll get tested for Motor Trend. They'll get tested for the car magazines, a few of the car shows. I'm willing to bet less than half a dozen of these ever actually get tested by an owner. Flat out.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody else that's going to buy these is going to want to be, look what I showed up in. Look what I have, right?
Right.
And nobody that's of the general populace and I'm getting on a soapbox here, and this is my problem with this car. Nobody in the general populace is going to look at that and be like, oh, they've got a ZR1. It's only going to be the major car guys. And so if you're like taking this, okay, I'm a big F1 guy. You show up in Monaco. Monaco is known for like all these great cars showing up at hotels and stuff like that. And everybody's like, you car watch there. At least that's what they say. I have not been there. You know, you show up in a freaking ZR1, not everybody's like, oh, that's a ZR1. They're like, that guy showed up in a Corvette. And that's the problem. I love them being in the hypercar space.
Yep. Give me 1 minute.
Yep.
My phone's overheating. I have to move.
Damn heat.
Yeah, I live out in the desert.
You'd have to get like a fan that you can hold behind it.
Yeah. We'll just finish off right here.
Yeah.
We're getting close to 15.
And I need to get off my soapbox. We're at, I think, 14 by my math. I'll get off my soapbox, but they need to make it look different a little bit more. Or they need to do a different model. Like, Ford has the Mustang that they've screwed up, different episode. But they also have the GT40, or the GT now. The modern day GT. You see the Ford GT, you know that's a supercar. You're not mistaking it for the Mustang. Corvettes are great. I love Corvettes. If they want to enter the hypercar space.
Sorry, well, I had to cool down a little bit here. So I put my phone on ice just to get this connection back because it did overheat. But we are back. So your point is that Mustang, you was talking about Mustang.
Yeah, I was just saying real quick. So, like, Ford has the Mustang, and they have the Ford GT. Right?
Yeah. Did you see the newest model come out?
Of the GT? I haven't seen it.
No, it's like a GT-R, so I don't know, whatever. It's $300,000.
Doesn't matter at the point. I'll have to go look it up. But I know when a person's pulled up in a Ford GT, and I'm not saying, oh, it's a Mustang.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
it's a different platform. It's a different platform. It's two different cars. One's got a higher prestige.
Are you talking about GT40?
I'm talking about the GT.
The Mustang GT?
No, the Ford GT.
You're talking about GT40.
Well, GT40 was the original racer. The new ones that you buy, are they still? I thought they were just GTs now.
No, GT40s.
Okay.
They're still GT40s.
Okay, so Ford GT.
I just want to clarify.
Right, GT40. But anyway, so I see somebody pull up in a GT40, new model. I'm not mistaking that as a Mustang. That automatically gives this person, because they can afford this car, and let's be honest, there's no Mustangs on the level of a Ford GT40.
No.
Right?
No, that's pure race car.
I'm not judging a person for a Mustang, but I am not putting a person that pulls up into a Mustang in the same class as somebody that drives a GT40. A GT40, you've got money. That's what that signifies. Let's be honest. You own a hypercar. If you own a hypercar, you're advertising, I've got money.
Yep.
You own a muscle car or a normal Corvette, you're advertising, I like cars. This doesn't differentiate. So who are they going after here? Because there's only a small subsection of Corvette fans that also want to say or own a hypercar. You know, it's a very small...
And then I think this should be, because you brought up a good point, this is probably the last thing we should talk about here is because a lot of the older Corvette people, they say it's not a Corvette anymore, you know, because it's gone beyond,
etc.
Like all the things we've just basically said. It's no longer a Corvette. This is something that the younger generation is really into, and that's what GM was marketing it towards. You know, but as older people, we still kind of like the front engine layout.
Yeah, the
and all
muscle
that other
car
stuff.
classic Corvette was basically a muscle car. Let's be honest.
Yes. You know, sports car with muscle. Yeah. Anyway.
Heritage.
But now this is true sports car territory, and you know, and don't get me wrong, you know, if I could fit in one, I haven't sat in one yet. If I could fit in one, I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Well, yeah.
It's definitely for the younger generation. The younger generation, of course, they eat up that type of stuff, like, you know. But it's like just everything we pointed out. It's not. It's basically becoming for the rich and the people, the younger kids, for them to dream. Don't get me wrong, that's awesome. Because I don't know if you remember, but I had that Ferrari Testarossa poster in my room when I was a teenager.
I had a Ferrari
And
F40.
If I could afford one, that'd be the car I could get. But so this is just the new generation of Corvette for the younger generation, for them to dream and build up.
And I get that with the base. I still gonna argue that even the young generation, you're still going after a market of, it's still got to be a hardcore Corvette person that's going to buy a ZR1, because once again, you're not getting the prestige.
Yep.
You buy a ZR1, the only people you're getting prestige with is the other hardcore Corvette people.
Yep.
You don't get the prestige that you get
with the racers.
racers, but you don't get the prestige that you're getting if you show up in anything else that is clearly a supercar, right?
Right.
So that subsection is very small of people that can afford this car and then want to be seen in this car, which you don't want to be seen in this car in a sense. Because if you're in this section over here that you're buying a hypercar to show you can afford a hypercar, you're not in this ZR1 territory. Because people aren't going to identify it. And then you've got this section of people that are actually buying real cars to race or whatever, and there's a very few or very small diagram in the Venn diagram that cross-sect that,
So, yeah, I understand what you said. So my last question, and then we'll end it, is would you take, say, a Ferrari that has less performance for the same price over the ZR1X?
It's a good question. I might disappoint you here, Nick. I think so.
You pick the Ferrari?
I think I'd pick the Ferrari. And knowing that is because the Ferrari is going to get me, I'm not a huge, look at me type guy, but it's going to be more recognizable than, I see 15 Corvettes a day if I drive down the freeway of the new ones. There's tons here. And I'm just going to be another Corvette owner. And they're not going to recognize that I have the better Corvette.
You know what's funny? Here in Vegas, I see a lot of Lambos, a lot of Ferraris.
Right.
It's just because it's a whole different city.
Just different. Right. Nick's in Vegas. I'm in Utah. So.
Yeah, and I'm in Vegas. So the thing is, though, is because there's a lot of money here, and so I see a lot of that type of stuff. I've done some car shows on my channel to where you'll see some of those really high-end cars. So it's funny, but to be honest with you, I like, because I don't. This is just me personally. I don't really like the shape of the Corvette. I think they could have went a little more round. I don't like the sharp jags, the sharpness looking.
They're going for that aggressive look. Is what they want.
Yeah, I like that. I would probably take a Ferrari with the nice
exactly.
lines.
You give me like a Ferrari 360.
But we're old.
Yeah, they've got the more smoother lines. I'm with you.
Yeah.
No, I like. I'll admit, once in a while I see those aggressive lines. Like, yeah, that looks aggressive. That does look aggressive. Is that what I want to drive? No, I want those smooth, clean lines that look like they just fly through the air.
Yep.
So.
And that's why I have the C3, because it has it has some sharp lines, but it's just more flow.
I think the C5 was the perfect merging, if we're going to stay on Corvettes, of smooth lines with getting a little bit more aggressive. I think the C5, although as I get older, I look at that C4 and I look at the clean lines. It's almost just...
The C4 is really starting to
look good. I would take a C4. But anyway, I think that's part of it. And just, like I said, there's Corvettes everywhere here. The new ones. C7s.
Oh, yeah. They're all over.
So besides pulling up to another Corvette and being able to smoke that Corvette, I'd rather have a Ferrari.
Yep. But we're getting older.
Yeah, we are. All right, we should wrap this up. So with that being said, if you guys want to hear more, we can talk all day. So we'll have plenty of topics.
Yeah.
But if you want to hear our take on anything, email us, comment us. I'm told this actually helps. Like, subscribe, whatever. It's cliche, but I'm told it helps.
Whatever.
So I'm going to say
do whatever you want.
Right. No pressure, though.
Come see us if you like us.
And, if you're really into Corvettes, check out Nick's Garage. His Corvette is pretty badass. Check it out. If you're
if you want to see Tyson, he has a really good running channel, and he tells his thoughts. I personally like his running channel a lot. He does a lot of good scenery. I personally like scenery.
Utah views, mountains.
Yep, mountains. Yeah, I do miss the mountains and stuff like that. So, and then he started a Lego channel.
I built a Lamborghini Countach yesterday.
Lego channel.
Yep, Lamborghini Countach.
Yeah, and then a few other ones. So, but anyway, like I said, all the links will be down below.
Yep,
So.
I'll put them all down below.
All right.
All right.
And, thanks,
next
guys.
time.
Thanks for watching us. All right. See you next time.